Burning through $500 million is something most people cannot imagine. Yet that literal mountain of cash vanished before Mike Tyson woke up 2 decades later wealthier than anyone expected. The reality of 2026 paints a very different picture than the old headlines, because he did not just survive his financial crash, and instead, he engineered a massive counterpunch that redefined his entire legacy. While the world remembers the baddest man on the planet for his losses, his current life proves he's found a way to win a much more important game. We are going beyond the headlines today to tour his $13 million Palm Beach mansion and break down the economics of his private travel, while also revealing the strict financial rules he sets for his 7 children. The biggest shock in his life isn't the jewelry or the cars, but rather a single green investment that is currently securing a financial dynasty for his family for the next 100 years. Grasping Mike's reality in 2026 requires looking back at the massive financial pit he climbed out of, especially considering he filed for bankruptcy in 2003 with $23 million in debt. Even though he'd earned $500 million during his fighting years, the money vanished, which led him to stop acting like a money-printing machine and start operating as a legitimate business. This shift from active paychecks to passive equity in global brands allowed him to stabilize his fortune while proving that financial maturity always beats raw talent. He ultimately traded his ego for equity, realizing that a brand can sell products every hour of the day without him ever having to step into a ring. Forensic estimates on his business holdings place his net worth firmly in the $20 million range as we move through 2026, though his gross revenue streams are significantly higher than that figure suggests. Most of this wealth is tied up in the valuation of Tyson 2.0 and his real estate portfolio rather than sitting as liquid cash in a checking account. Mike understands that net worth is often just a vanity metric, and he focuses on the fact that his current cash flow is actually stronger now than it was when he was the heavyweight champion. Ownership became his only path to true freedom, and the numbers finally seem to add up. But let's take a look at Iron Mike Tyson's lavish home. Located in the quiet enclaves of Palm Beach County, his Mediterranean estate acts as a sanctuary valued at approximately $13 million. This fortress of solitude includes 6 bedrooms and a resort-style pool, and it also houses a private museum dedicated to the artifacts of his legendary career. There is a massive difference in his mindset now, because in the 90s he bought mansions to show off to the world, but today he uses real estate as a place to hide from it. He views his home as a battery charger for his spirit rather than a billboard for his wealth. Peace is the only luxury he truly cares about. Tyson 2.0 serves as the primary engine for his financial growth, and by 2026, the company has expanded into a global wellness conglomerate operating in over 20 countries. Tens of millions in gross revenue have been generated by premium strains and the iconic Earbites edibles, proving that his name carries more weight than almost any other athlete in the world. The genius of this business is its authenticity, as Mike acts as the chief brand officer who genuinely uses the products for their medicinal benefits. He followed the classic rule of investing in what he uses and selling what he believes in. Those ear-shaped edibles have become a permanent cultural icon. Discussions about Mike's lifestyle always return to the pigeons, an eccentric recurring expense that he prioritizes over almost everything else. Maintaining a coop of over 1,000 pedigree racing birds costs him $40,000 every month, which covers everything from specialized handlers to veterinary care. While the outside world might view this as madness, these birds represent the only unconditional love Mike knew during his childhood in Brownsville. He chooses to spend money on things that heal his inner child, and he often says it is much cheaper than traditional therapy. Flying private used to be a way for Mike to feel like a king, but in 2026, he utilizes it because his time has become a logistical asset for his various businesses. He avoids the massive depreciation of owning a Gulfstream outright by using exclusive jet card memberships that can cost $500,000 annually. This setup allows him to maximize his efficiency by sleeping between continents, which means he lands ready to close deals instead of recovering from jet lag. Time is the only resource he cannot earn back, and he's willing to pay for the efficiency that helps his empire grow. But what about his car collection? The days of buying 20 Rolls Royces in a single afternoon just to impress people who were stealing from him are long gone. His 2026 garage is much smaller and more curated, featuring a Rolls-Royce Cullinan for family trips and a high-end Mercedes that reflects his more tasteful approach to luxury. This shift in spending habits shows a man who no longer needs a vehicle to validate his existence or his masculinity. He views a car as a tool for transport rather than a measure of his soul. He's much more interested in driving than just cruising for attention. Another thing that Tyson values these days is his health. Approaching his 60s has forced Mike to spend a fortune on his body, but he does it for survival rather than for vanity. Severe sciatica once left him in a wheelchair, which prompted him to invest heavily in stem cell therapy and hyperbaric chambers to stay mobile. This biohacking budget easily clears 6 figures every year, as he employs top specialists to keep his joints functional and his neurological health sharp. He understands that all the money in the world is useless if he is in too much pain to walk to the bank. Mobility has become his truest form of wealth. Lakiha Kiki Spicer is the force of nature behind Mike's resurgence, acting as both his wife and his primary strategic partner. Since they married, she has taken control of his business dealings by cutting out leeches and restructuring his contracts to ensure the family is protected. She is the gatekeeper of the Tyson fortune, and her presence proves that having a partner who understands the business is more valuable than any financial advisor. Mike frequently credits her with saving his life by helping him build a future instead of just spending for the moment. Investments in his daughter Milan's tennis career represent one of the most surprising and significant line items in Mike's 2026 budget. Training a potential professional requires world-class coaches and constant travel, which costs him hundreds of thousands of dollars every single year. He approaches this role as a facilitator rather than a helicopter parent, giving Milan the same discipline he learned in boxing without the risk of brain trauma. He believes the greatest inheritance he can provide is opportunity and discipline, rather than just a pile of cash. They are focused on a very different kind of ring now. Discipline remains the foundation of his daily life, starting with a strict 4 a.m. wake-up call that he's maintained since his early training days with Cus D'Amato. While most of the world is still asleep, he spends the first hour of his day stretching and practicing mindfulness to separate his current self from the Iron Mike persona that caused so much damage in the past. It isn't just about the physical workout anymore, but rather about mental fortification before the chaos of business emails begins. He believes that if you conquer the morning, you have already won the day. Those vegan headlines from 2020 are long gone because the 2026 version of Mike relies strictly on wild game meat to fuel his daily training. He switched to a diet of elk and bison to support his testosterone levels and keep his joints healthy. And while wild game costs significantly more than supermarket beef, he views it as high-performance fuel for his aging physiology. He treats his gut like an engine that requires ethical and hormone-free nutrition. His philosophy is to avoid anything cheap or processed, and he eats like the predator he once was. The hot boxing era served as a blueprint for his current media empire, and by 2026, he has pivoted into a broader entity with the launch of Behind the Mic. This isn't just a podcast, but a licensing machine that generates 7 figures in ad revenue by distributing content across YouTube and Spotify. He realized that his raw and unfiltered conversations are more valuable than his uppercuts ever were because they can be consumed by millions every single day. Content has become his new form of real estate, and he built it once so he could earn from it forever. His voice is now his most powerful weapon. When Mike walks onto a stage in 2026, corporate executives pay between $75,000 and $100,000 for just 1 hour of his time. He speaks on resilience and the psychology of conquering fear, which are topics that resonate deeply in the volatile world of modern business. It is a surreal turn of events to see a man once banned from countries being flown in on private jets to teach CEOs how to survive under pressure. He's transformed his biggest traumatic experiences into tuition for others. His mistakes have become his most profitable lessons, but podcasts and motivational speeches are not the only ways he makes money. Digital avatars in games like Tekken and UFC mean Mike can earn money without even being in the room. Licensing checks from these simulations provide a steady stream of passive income, which shows how much he learned from the 80s when he used to sign away his rights for nothing. He now retains strict control over where his face appears, ensuring that his digital immortality continues to feed his bank account while he sleeps. History has taught him that protecting his likeness is the key to long-term wealth. He is fighting in virtual arenas everywhere, all at once. Las Vegas remains the primary office for his business empire, even though his sanctuary is located across the country in Palm Beach. He keeps a high-security penthouse in the city for when he needs to visit the Tyson 2.0 headquarters, which is a far cry from the sprawling mansions where he famously kept a tiger. Vegas is the place where he works, but Florida is the place where he heals. This separation of his work life and his home life is a crucial boundary he set for his mental health. What happens in Vegas effectively pays for his peace in Florida. As a brand, it doesn't come as a surprise that Iron Mike pays special attention to fashion trends. Understated luxury defines his 2026 wardrobe, which is a far cry from the flashy designer prints he used to wear when he was chasing status. He often wears high-end athleisure from his son Amir's brand, debonair attire, effectively turning every public appearance into a marketing opportunity for the family business. He understands that at 60 years old, true style is about the fit and the fabric rather than the logos on the chest. He doesn't need to wear luxury brands because he has become the brand himself. He dresses like a chief executive instead of a contender. Fame comes with a dark side that costs Mike over $500,000 every year in security expenses. Professional 24/7 protection is a requirement rather than a luxury, especially for a man who still faces challenges from fans in public places. His team consists of former military professionals who are trained to de-escalate situations because a lawsuit is far more dangerous to his wealth than a physical fight. He pays for the peace of mind that comes with knowing his back is always watched. Safety has become one of his largest and most necessary overhead costs. The transformation of Iron Mike into a business powerhouse is halfway complete, and if you respect his hustle, you should hit that subscribe button right now. I want to know if you respect the ferocious 20-year-old champion or the 60-year-old business mogul more. Leave a comment with champion or mogul to let us know. Now we are going to look at the 7 people who changed his life more than any trainer ever could. His children. The title of dad is what defines the 2026 version of Mike Tyson more than anything else in his life. He has 7 children from different chapters of his past, and his philosophy has shifted from being an absent provider to being a present mentor. He uses his past failures as teaching moments for his kids and never tries to sugarcoat his history. Instead of trying to be their friend, he acts as a map to help them navigate the minefields he once walked through. He is fighting for their future rather than his own ego. Milan's tennis career is the family's moonshot, and Mike has hired Patrick Mouratoglou to ensure she has the best coaching available. By 2026, they are focused on the professional circuit because Mike sees tennis as the perfect sport for mental toughness without the physical trauma of boxing. He is essentially building a new champion, but he's doing it from the corner instead of inside the ring. He believes that greatness only skips a generation if you fail to pass the torch. Milan currently hits the ball harder than her father ever could. Not every member of the Tyson family is interested in fighting, and his son Miguel has chosen a life in music and photography instead. Mike supports this creative path by funding Miguel's equipment and travel, allowing him to explore the world in a way Mike never could. This shows a level of growth in Mike, as he no longer feels the need to force his own dreams onto his children. He uses his wealth to give them the freedom to find their own identities. Raising children who don't have to be like him is his ultimate flex. Amir Tyson has decided to take the microphone and build a career as a sportscaster and commentator. While he leverages the family name, Mike encourages him to do the work himself and understand that the real power in sports often lies with the media. He is teaching his son how to control the narrative, which is something Mike lost control of for several decades. Amir is learning that if you don't own your story, the story will eventually own you. He is becoming the voice of the next generation. Massive internal growth is evident in how Mike supports his child, Ramsey, who identifies as non-binary, showing a level of acceptance that the younger version of Iron Mike likely wouldn't have possessed. He's gone on record stating that his primary job is to love his children rather than judge them, proving that his emotional intelligence is now just as strong as his physical power. This transformation is perhaps the most shocking part of his modern life. He's learned that real strength is being soft enough to love without conditions. The famous white tiger named Kenia is no longer part of the estate in 2026, as Mike now views exotic animal ownership as a mistake born of his past insecurity. He spends his money on animal conservation and charities today, rather than trying to maintain a private zoo. He realized that trying to domesticate a predator was simply a mirror of his own struggle to be tamed. Admitting he was wrong is a rare trait for someone of his stature, but he now believes that respecting a living thing is more powerful than owning it. And speaking of respect, Mike Tyson is a philanthropist, finding different ways to help those in need. A surprising move into the tech world saw Mike launch an app called Price Fighter, which is designed to help low-income families find the best prices on their daily essentials. This project is deeply personal because of his childhood in Brownsville, and he's now using technology to help people fight the same poverty he escaped decades ago. He is essentially using his brand to punch inflation in the face for the people he used to be. He believes that you will lose your way if you ever forget where you came from. Mike's mind has changed just as much as his bank account has, moving from a scarcity mindset to one of total abundance. He no longer feels the need to buy things just to prove he has money, and instead, he invests his money to buy back his time. He often says that his biggest financial mistake was trying to buy friendships that weren't real. In 2026, he understands that things offered for free are often the most expensive in the long run. Wisdom has become his primary currency. The 2024 fight with Jake Paul stands out as a massive financial turning point that critics labeled a circus, but Mike saw it as a calculated business move. He walked away with a reported $20 million for 16 minutes of work, and he immediately funneled that capital into tax-efficient real estate and trusts to secure his grandchildren's college education. He was happy to play the villain for one night if it meant he could invest like a hero for the rest of his life. He essentially laughed all the way to the bank after that session. Inner peace has become his most valuable asset, and he finds that grounding through his faith as a devout Muslim. Annual trips to Mecca for Umrah are now permanent fixtures in his calendar and his budget, and he credits the structure of Islam with helping him move past the materialism that nearly destroyed him decades ago. He believes that faith costs nothing, but losing it can cost you everything. His spiritual promoter is now much more powerful than any boxing manager he ever had. His foundation, Tyson Cares, focuses heavily on childhood homelessness and food insecurity because Mike knows exactly what it feels like to go to bed hungry. He often spends his own money to hand out supplies and food boxes without any camera crews present, viewing these acts of service as a way to heal the trauma of his own difficult upbringing. Giving back has become his way of continuing to move forward. He's fighting hunger now with the same intensity he once used in the ring. Global citizenship is a big part of his life in 2026, and he frequently embarks on speaking tours across Europe and the Middle East for his one-man shows. These events sell out theaters because people want to hear his life story, a format that allows him to generate massive returns with very low overhead. He realized that his biography is a piece of intellectual property that he should be the one selling. He is the entire show now, and he doesn't need anyone else to help him sell tickets. Investments in companies like Wasana Health show that Mike is betting on the future of mental health treatment through psychedelic research. He credits the venom of the Sonoran Desert toad with helping him find clarity, and he's now acting as a pioneer in an industry that many are starting to call the shroom boom. He isn't just a user of these treatments, but a serious investor who puts his money where his mind is. He believes that sometimes you have to lose your mind to finally find yourself. Young boxers often look to Mike for advice, and he's happy to act as a free consultant to help them avoid the predatory contracts he once signed. He preaches the importance of financial literacy over knockout power, warning the next generation that sharks are still circling the industry. His primary advice in 2026 is that every fighter must learn how to sign their own checks. He is disrupting an industry that exploited him by passing down the wisdom he gained the hard way. Being a Hall of Fame athlete provides more than just a plaque, and Mike has structured his life so that his classic fights and documentary rights generate consistent royalty checks. He spent years in court fighting to reclaim these rights, but now he finally owns his past and ensures that his boxing history pays him rent every single month. He learned that making history today is the best way to ensure you get paid tomorrow. The tapes of his greatest moments never stop rolling. The rebranding of Mike Tyson is a massive success story that could be studied in any business school, as he pivoted from being the baddest man on earth to the wisest man in the room. This shift was a calculated move to make him attractive to mainstream brands that wouldn't have touched him in the 90s. Everyone loves a redemption story, and companies now beg for his endorsement because of the resilience he represents. He couldn't change his past, but he certainly managed to rebrand his future. The massive entourage that used to follow him everywhere has vanished, and his 2026 inner circle consists only of a few family members and friends who stayed loyal when his bank account hit zero. Cutting the payroll for hangers-on was the most effective financial move he made after his bankruptcy because it allowed him to stop paying for fake friendships. He realized that people on your payroll are just employees who will lie to keep their jobs. He travels very light these days. Mike has no plans to fully retire because he believes that resting is just a waiting room for death. He stays active in his various businesses because he needs the purpose they provide rather than just the money they generate. Whether he's focused on his cannabis brand or his pigeons, he keeps moving to keep his personal demons at bay. He believes the living have work to do, and he plans to stay active until the very end. Fame is something Mike now treats like a hazardous material that is useful if handled carefully, but deadly if touched directly. He uses his status to open doors for his business ventures, but refuses to let it define how he feels about himself. He is still incredibly famous, but for the first time in his life, he is also genuinely free. Fame used to be a drug for him, but he is finally sober and comfortable with the mask off. Resilience is the legacy he wants to leave behind rather than just a highlight reel of knockouts. He wants to be remembered as the man who climbed back up after hitting the absolute bottom. His life story has shifted from being a tale of destruction to one of total reconstruction, proving that what matters most is how you keep moving forward after the world thinks you're finished. He is the ultimate survivor of his own life. Looking toward the year 2030, Mike is positioning his brand to outlive him by setting up various trusts and guidelines that will maintain the Tyson name for generations. He is focused on building multi-generational wealth to break the cycle of poverty that started in Brooklyn, and he's effectively planting trees whose shade he may never sit under. He wants the name to carry the same weight as Jordan or Foreman long after he is gone. The final verdict for 2026 is that Mike Tyson is genuinely wealthy because he has finally found a balance between his millions and his mental health. He managed to conquer the world, lose everything, and then build a life that is actually sustainable, proving that the happiest man on the planet is the one who finally won the fight for himself. He found his peace outside of the ring. Mike Tyson's 2026 lifestyle is proof that it is never too late to reinvent yourself, provided you are willing to trade your ego for some peace and profit. And that's it from us today. Until next time, thank you for watching.